just to introduce again myself, I'm Manlio Di Stefano, I'm a member of Italian Parliament and a member also of the Council of Europe. That's important because the Council of Europe is talking about human rights, and I saw with my eyes the issues within Russia and Ukraine in the Council of Europe, so it's kind of important for me to be here today. Well, first of all, the speech will deliberately be harsh, so to give more hints for the debate. I start with the failure of the economic integration and military process of the so-called Western system, clearly and dramatically evident in the case of Ukraine. And for what I said before, because I think that now talking about peace is talking about economic. Then I will focus on the alternative model that the BRICS countries are starting to offer to the international system, and I would like to conclude briefly with some concrete ideas that the Five Star Movement, the party I'm part of, will formally propose on this issue, and that's fantastic because it was not planned, during a conference that we are organizing and the Italian House of Representatives on the 10th of July about de-dollarization. So it's mostly linked to the BRICS. So talking about the Western system, we have to start from the strategy that the United States has already decided for the future of Europe. A strategy that stays in 4 letters, TTIP, Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. A huge free trade area that the two blocs are negotiating in secret and almost absolute privacy. Multinationals and large American corporations such as Monsanto claim for the kind of economic NATO, to cancel national guarantees on environment and health, as well as to have the legal weapon to sue the individual EU member states if they refuse to import, for example, GMO products. They do not ask and they do not listen to the opinion of the majority of citizens. I totally disagree with the TTIP, and I encourage every one of us in our own countries to fight it in any place where it is possible. And I strongly believe that we have to move from the imposition of the free movement of capitals and goods to the free movement of ideas and human rights. That's our goal in the future. Everywhere we have to fight it, even if it leads to the renegotiation of agreements already signed. And that's one of the things that I will suggest after. So what's the connection with peace? The United States needed a great cause to make Europe sign the TTIP and to sell us the shale gas instead of the Russian one. And it is this great cause was the coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014, founded by the United States and the EU. That's my opinion. Not all opinion, maybe. After a few months, the Kiev government is, by my point of view, an institutional monster, and that's maybe the part of the failures that you were talking about Ukraine. Made of, in a part, we can discuss about Odessa, for example, convinced neo-Nazis, and the worst international financial technocracy, which has led the country to default and is guilty of serious crimes against humanity in the breakaway regions of the eastern country. The Ministry of Finance is run by an American banker, and that's the data, and it was set up a Ministry of Truth of Orwellian memory that has horrified even the OC. In wanting to force the entry of Ukraine into NATO, the US is playing with scenarios of possible Third World War, made of militarization of Eastern Europe, and Obama talked about this just yesterday. But I want to tell you that Europe is already really under pressure for this, and only Italy has lost more than 1 billion euros in the 2014 for the block of the commerce with Russia. And I will say that this imposition was made by the United States. It is not my statement, but it's the statement of Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, that said that the Obama itself, they made pressure on Europe to block the connection between the two blocs. What is happening in Ukraine shows that the Western security system exposes us at serious risk. I will just remind you the level of the NATO's military exercise for Ukraine, a crisis created, as I said, and this is literally now preparing for a new war. After the first phase called Noble Jump, held in April in Poland, recently there was a second in Scotland called Joint Warrior, that by a mission of NATO was the largest naval exercise ever made. And all this done to prepare the so-called Trident Juncture 2015, the largest military exercise since the fall of the Berlin Wall, to be held in Italy from September 28th to November 9th, to the presence all the NATO's forces. Recently, the General Secretary of NATO announced that the alliance will increase its presence in Kiev by sending its advisors to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. But I remember you that in Ukraine there are already 75 military advisors sent by London and 300 US paratroopers for the military training of the National Guard of Kiev. But let's go forward. What about cost? Money for health, education and youth employment in Italy now is in average of the 43% of youth unemployment, and in the south of Italy, where I'm from, is the 63%. They are never fine, this money. But only Italy in the NATO spends 80 million euros per day in its defense. And NATO now presses to rise up this level to the 2% of the GDP. We're talking about 100 million euros per day. Do you still think that this kind of alliance is really aiming to international peace? I don't believe so anymore. Libya is the last demonstration that military intervention always worsens the situation on the ground, and it is useful only to the political agendas of the Greek powers and to the financial business of the Western multinationals. NATO is functional to all this and certainly not to the international peace. I want to say here that we as YAF especially, we don't have to be scared about this, because an alternative is going on, it's ongoing already. And that's why it is important today here to talk about BRICS. The enormous potential of the BRICS countries allows them to act as sovereign poles of multipolarity in the world economy and its international system in general. The highlight of this new stage of economic integration was the 6th BRICS summit held in Fortaleza in July, when the heads of states and governments of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa have announced the creation of the BRICS Bank and the Monetary Reserve Fund. The two initiatives open space to financial cooperation and to alternative financing of countries in crisis, without being subjected to the austerity conditions that are already squeezing the Eurozone, and we should discuss about that. A revolution of solidarity for a new international financial system that overtakes the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, the two arms of the Washington Consensus. The BRICS, the Latin American countries with their Buen Vivir model, and in general what is called the Southern political world, are consolidating a new axis that is already overtaking the dollar as their trading currency, and that's very important. So what's the most important thing happened after Fortaleza? The birth of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, created by the initiative of China in competition with the World Bank and the Asian Development Banks. It aims on financing ambitious infrastructures of the economic belt of the new road of silk from Eurasia to Europe. The strengthening of the relation between Brazil, Russia, India, and China and South Africa since 2010 isn't a mere consequence of common interest in the field of modernization and economic development. It is mostly due to a common approach to foreign policy. The political coordination within the BRICS is the driving force of the transformation from a unipolar world to a multipolar world. But it's important to say, because it's what I was saying before, that it's not the truth that now the BRICS is only economic. There is also something going on, and it's called Shanghai Cooperation Organization, that it's for the first time a cooperation also in terms of weapons and army, and India and China has done together a lot of things nowadays. So the problem is that in Europe we really have no idea of what is going on with BRICS, and that's crazy. I mean, we are discussing about it, but our governments are not even talking about this, and they see BRICS like an obstacle to something. So I think that now it's time to move also in Europe in the direction taken by the BRICS towards the building of an international system able to respect, as opposed to the Western security system, the founding principles of the international law: respect for territorial and popular sovereignty, people's self-determination, non-interference in the other states' international affairs, and economic multilateralism. I think that we, European citizens, should call for an international forum on the Western defense system to discuss the way to overstep the existing failed one. I think that the alternative to this chaos and devastation that is ongoing does exist, but we just need to catch it and to start by us, yes. I won't say the word leaders, because in the idea of my movement, there is the direct democracy. So I think that we citizens had to fight to reach this goal, and this is a good starting point.